Hey, you're listening to the Bandwagoners. My name is Andy Cole.
And my name's Justin Boniface, and tonight we're bringing you news and notes from around the NHL.
How's it going, bud?
Not too bad. I think first off, we need to talk about how we're no longer going to be available on iTunes.
This is correct. With a heavy heart, we announced that the radio station that hosts our show, called The Radio Station, based out of Montreal, is shutting down after a year of service to the media. So it's a little bit sad. We want to thank Patrick Lortie and all of his staff for working so hard over the last year to get our show on the air. And obviously, they were a huge factor into our sort of genesis and our creation. And we owe a big thank you to those guys. They've been really awesome.
But we're going to keep bringing you the show, so we're going to be available on Spreaker. Andy has more of the details so far as he's going to be posting it.
Yeah, well, pretty much what happens is the show has always been available on Spreaker. We only actually got the iTunes thing going, I think, on the 7th or the 8th show. So the bulk of the shows you guys have been listening to have been through that website anyways. So when we post the shows, we'll just give you a link to our brand new website. It's just you go to Spreaker.com/user/the Bandwagoners, or you could just search the Bandwagoners on Spreaker. Whatever you want to do, and that's how you listen to the show. So it's going to be really easy to do. You could download the Spreaker app on your iPhone or your Android or whatever, and the Spreaker app will also allow you to follow us, listen to us directly from your phone. So honestly, it's pretty much the same thing as iTunes. It's just a different medium of how to listen to us. But starting this show will be available on Spreaker.
And you'll also be able to keep up to date with us on Twitter and Facebook if you're not already doing so check those pages out as well.
Twitter, at the Bandwagoners for Twitter, and our Facebook page is facebook.com/the Bandwagoners, which a lot of you know already. So not a lot of changes for that. You'll still be able to listen to the show really easily, but we're sad to see the radio station go. They've been longtime friends of ours. I've known Patrick for many years now, and it's sad to see that chapter end, but we're excited about the things to come, and it looks like we're in talks with a new radio station to be hosting the show as well, so stay in tune for that. This is the playoffs. Playoffs start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Huge thing. This is what all hockey fans live for. We cannot be pumped enough to bring you guys our playoff coverage. We're really excited about all of that. Before we go into our playoff predictions, since that's what the bulk of the show is going to be, a few little brief snippets. Firstly, the Stars, they fire Joe Nieuwendyk, their 4-year GM. He gets fired yesterday, and they hire Jim Nill as the replacement.
I know, it's a little bit weird to me because, it doesn't seem like a very thorough check for a replacement for Nieuwendyk. Realistically, if you're going to make that move, you got to have somebody really good lined up, and it doesn't feel like that was strategized really well, and it was more like, okay, let's get rid of him because of some bad decisions this year. Yeah. Now what do we do?
Well, Nill was targeted by several teams to be a GM, and a lot of guys in the media circles predicted he would eventually get a GM's job. He's been a longtime scout of the Stars and other teams. But you're right, it's a bit of an odd selection. But
it's just risky, I think, just because of the position the Stars are in.
At the same time, they think because he's been such a successful scout for so many organizations, he knows talent. And as a GM, you got to know talent. You got to know how to pick your players and your trades and such. So it sucks for Nieuwendyk, and he only really had 4 years there. And they never really did much. They missed the playoffs every year. So, he didn't really have I don't know if 4 years is necessarily enough time to encapsulate what you can do as a GM. But
and we said the same thing about what was it, Burke in Toronto? Same kind of
deal,
right?
They just didn't give him a fair shake.
And now look at them, they're in the playoffs, and it was his roster that did it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would laugh if the Stars made it next year on a roster that Nieuwendyk put together, but that seems be the way it goes. The Colorado Avalanche, they fired Joe Sacco today.
Yeah, and not a big surprise there. Although he did get them the first overall draft pick in the NHL next year. That's about all he did for that team. Wasn't able to keep the young guys motivated.
No.
As we heard from J.S. Giguere, the team was very independently focused, and the coach has got to be able to bring his players out of that, and that just wasn't doable for Sacco.
Mm-hmm. His first year there, they made the playoffs surprisingly that year, and I think he was there for about 3 years. So about 3 years ago when they made the playoffs, a lot of people thought they were the surprise selection in the playoffs, seeing as how poor their roster was at that point. So Sacco was deemed as something of a god in his first season. Unfortunately, after that season, it really all fell by the wayside, and they just didn't do a whole lot. So, as you said, it's not that surprising that they fire him. That leads directly into the next thing we're going to mention. The draft lottery was held today. For those of you that don't know, the draft lottery, what that is it determines who picks the first 10 picks. Now, obviously, the teams that fare the worst in the standings will get the highest percentage of winning the lottery. So, for example, this year, it didn't change anything. Like, the teams that fell fell on the lottery fell exactly as they did in the standings. So the lottery this year was actually kind of pointless. Nevertheless,
not quite. Florida had a better chance to pick up the first overall pick. They had a 25% chance.
That's true. That's true. So Colorado had
an 18%.
So Colorado did upset them in the first overall pick.
Yeah.
Last year in the draft lottery, there was like 4 or 5 teams that got shuffled around, surprisingly, and I think one of the teams, like New Jersey, they were in like not even in the top 10, and they got the fourth overall pick.
And Edmonton, they were like 5th or 6th chance to get first, and they got it.
Yeah, exactly. So last year was a lot more interesting for the draft lottery. This year, not so much. But it's great ratings for TSN, and people watch it, so why not, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this year you're correct in saying that Colorado did get the first overall pick. It's huge for them. We've talked about this before, but this year's draft is probably one of the better drafts in the last decade. The top 3 players especially are all projected to not only be star players, but potential franchise players. So guys that will be, Ovechkin's, Taves, even Crosby's on their team for pretty much the foreseeable future. So it's a huge, huge thing for the top 3 teams. Colorado gets first overall.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually great for their roster. They got J.S. Giguère now. They need to build on their defense. But as far as young talent is concerned, they are stacked.
Yeah, well, now they get the best. Not only do they get the first overall pick, they get the best defenseman to come into a draft in what many critics are saying in years. Seth Jones is, without a doubt, the number 1 pick in the draft. Like every single scout agrees, he's the overall number 1 selection. He is not just going to be a star player in the league. He's projected to be a franchise player, much in the line of a Drew Doughty or a Duncan Keith. Yeah. So the Colorado Avalanche have really struggled with their defense, especially with the Eric Johnson for a Shattenkirk debacle. They trade Kevin Shattenkirk to St. Louis, who's just tearing it now, and Eric Johnson, who was a first overall pick as well. Although he's a decent defenseman, he's a top 4 pairing, he definitely didn't turn into the star player that most people thought. So it's huge for Colorado to get Seth Jones, because what they need more than anything is defense. And he's going to be what many assume is an incredible talent.
Yeah, exactly.
Second overall, you got the Florida Panthers. Now, it's going to be between Nate McKinnon and Jonathan Drouin. Most people are picking McKinnon is going to go second overall only because he's a better two-way player, and Drouin is more of a scorer. Think of it in the lines of several years back when it was between Malkin and Ovechkin as the top 2 picks. Most people, although they did pick Ovechkin first overall, looking back on it now, most people would have picked Malkin just because he's a better all-around player than Ovechkin.
Agreed.
Although Ovechkin would make the argument this year. He's had such a great year.
Yeah.
But overall, most people now looking back on it would pick Malkin as the first overall. So a lot of people think that although Florida may be tempted with Drouin because he's such an exciting player, such a dominating force offensively, most people do think they are probably going to pick Nate McKinnon, who is sort of molded after like a Jonathan Taves or even maybe Joe Thornton. Just a very good two-way player, and doesn't do anything particularly overall better than the other, but he's good at everything. He's a great centerman, great on the face-offs, great penalty killing, great power plays. He's got an excellent shot. He's a terrific playmaker, and he's a captain.
You know more about the draft than I do, man. I'm out of the loop on the picks this year. So.
Oh, I love my draft picks. I love the draft. It's one of my favorite times of the year. So I think Florida will pick McKinnon just because he's a better, well-rounded player. I'm not saying 100%. They may go for Drouin because Drouin is the better scorer of the two. I have a feeling Florida will pick McKinnon, and that leads Tampa Bay. I believe third overall. Tampa Bay.
Correct.
Tampa will get Drouin, which is terrifying to think that they will have Stamkos and Drouin potentially on one
St.
line.
St. Louis is probably going to be retiring in the next 3 seasons or
That's
so,
true.
and LeCavalier in the next 10, less than 10.
And
like
St.
5
Louis,
to 8.
St. Louis gets the Art Ross this year, oldest player ever.
Yeah,
the Art
that's
Ross.
crazy.
Isn't that insane? I mean, a large part of that due to the fact that he's feeding Stamkos. But nevertheless, not to take away from St. Louis, he's a great player. But you're correct, with St. Louis probably retiring in the next 2 or 3 years, it'll probably take Drouin that long to really emerge. Although it is projected that all the 3 top picks, I should mention this, all 3 of the top picks, it is projected that they will all play in the NHL next year.
Well, you'd think so. I mean, based on some of the talent that made the NHL this year, I mean, like Yakupov, Huberdeau, Galchenyuk, they're all very young players that were picked this season.
And
here you go.
Didn't it finish that Yakupov, Gallagher, and Huberdeau, didn't they all finish like within a goal from each other or something?
Yeah, they did. They all finished. Yakupov ended up tying in points because of that hat trick against the Vancouver Canucks the other night.
So he tied with
Huberdeau for points.
But Gallagher,
and there's a 3-way tie for goals.
Really, that is interesting.
So 15 goals apiece for 3 of those players.
Oh, man.
31 points apiece for Yakupov and Huberdeau, and 29 points for Gallagher.
So now who do you get the Calder to?
It's tough. Gallagher has the upper hand of his physical presence would be more acknowledged by the defensive players in the NHL.
Yeah.
and B, his team's in the playoffs.
It's true.
But other than that, I mean,
money's on for me, Huberdeau, just because he was consistently amazing all year. Gallagher was
as well. Yakupov was hot, really
hot
early
and, cold.
And really late.
Yeah, hot and cold. So I probably would give it to Gallagher or Huberdeau, but that's going to be tough for either. I don't know who you...
Huberdeau has more raw talent. That's the thing about Gallagher. It's like he earned his place on that stats sheet based on hard work and like battling for pucks. Like even Subban was saying today when he was interviewed in a TSN thing about how it's just like if everybody played like Gallagher on the Habs roster, they'd win the cup. Like it's just like
he's such a heart and soul
he will
guy.
not give up.
You know, I think I agree with you there. I think I'd probably put my money then at that point as Gallagher getting the Calder nod just based on what he did.
I'd like to see that, but I mean, like Huberdeau's got a huge shot at it. So I think Yakupov's out of the running. He had a great season. You can't really say anything about that. But
Another thing with Gallagher, though, Huberdeau was expected to do this. Gallagher is a 6th round pick. Yeah. So he wasn't expected
Which
to
is,
do
again,
this.
you got to keep adding these little tiny, like...
So I would give that to Gallagher.
Exactly. That's another reason, another column for him.
So we're digressing. I will quickly mention going back to it. So yeah, Tampa will probably, in my opinion, get picked Drouin overall. Drouin is, unlike McKinnon, who's a better two-way player, Drouin is just strictly a scorer. He's much like an Ovechkin or a Stamkos. He's got some of the best hands that I've ever seen. The guy had this goal early in the year where he has Datsuk-style playmaking. Yeah. So early in the year, he had this incredible goal where he literally skated through 5 players. Like it was a shift change, and he was just holding the puck for the shift change. Guys were going off and changing, and he just decides to take it end to end. Yeah. And he beats every single player, and he scores. So it was a 1-on-5, and he scores. So Drouin's got that just sort of push you out of your seat, raw lightning talent, which makes Florida tempted probably to take him. But based on the Ovechkin-Malkin thing, I think they probably will get McKinnon. But as I said, if Tampa picks Drouin, once they get goaltending,
either way,
once Tampa gets goaltending and defense figured out, they're going to be a scary team because between Drouin and Stamkos, potentially those are in the 5 years from now, those potentially could both be the top 2 scorers in the league. Yeah, and they play together on the same line.
Well, it's Crosby Malkin.
So right before we get in the playoffs, because this was such a huge thing on Twitter last night and all across the media world, Don Cherry on Coach's Corner, straight up on the air, no apologies, says women should not, specifically female reporters, but women in general, women should not be allowed in locker rooms. In men's locker rooms.
Yeah. And to be fair to Don Cherry, he has some good points in the argument, but he presents it very poorly. And the thing about it is, like, his one point is like, well, you don't see the opposite happening. Men don't go into female dressing rooms.
Men aren't allowed in women's locker rooms.
And it's not to him. He doesn't think they should be. It's not that kind of argument. He thinks, like, why is that necessary time? Why are you interviewing somebody during that time? Like, why is that the time you have to get the interviews in? Yeah. Why is like that's one thing about the whole.
He's saying it's a double standard. Exactly. He's saying it's a double standard. If women shouldn't be allowed in men's locker rooms since men aren't allowed in women's locker rooms, it's still a bit of an archaic way of thinking, just because this is the way society is. Yeah. But at the same time, I do see his point. But it isn't 1960. I mean, this is the reality of the situation. There are female reporters, and they should be allowed in men's locker rooms. And let's face it as well. The bulk of media coverage in any sport in the world is 90% men. They are the bulk of the professional leagues.
Yeah, and until you get to the Olympics each year, that's when the media really goes crazy over both sports.
The Olympics being the exception, of course.
Other than that, it's really not that aggressive in sports. So
Cherry was a bit of an idiot for stating it. I mean, a lot of people think that this could be sort of like the catalyst to maybe him finally being taken off the air.
I don't think so. Because
I don't either. It's ratings, man.
Did you see
the ratings for that? It was incredible.
There's a video clip of him from the 80s saying that a sexist comment about a woman who got hit with a puck, and he was like, "Oh, probably like some woman yapping away," and that was like 20 years ago. And Ron McLean's like, "Whoa!" and like Ron McLean freaked out way more than he did on this thing.
Yeah,
that was 20 years ago.
This time he's probably just like, "Oh, I'm used to it."
Yeah, it's just like whatever. Well, you see his face though. Like there'll be a meme made out of it. He's like, Ooh, like come on, man! Like we've been through this.
Yeah, what are you? That's but a good Canadian kid. That's my Cherry impression. I apologize for that. Okay, yeah. So Cherry's a sexist idiot, but that's sort of not surprising. I don't think it'll affect his job at all.
No, and he's such a ratings. It'll help CBC's ratings.
Yeah, he's such a ratings king,
and CBC needs it.
I gotta say, I hate CBC right now, specifically as a Canucks fan, because there's 3 Canadian matchups, and of course, being predominantly East Coast, they pick the Leafs series, and they also pick the Boston or the Montreal Ottawa series, and the Canucks go to TSN. Now,
I
like the fact I like TSN more than CBC. Sorry, CBC. I'm more of a TSN guy. I think they give better overall.
But you're saying you hate CBC, and who you're really mad at is TSN because they don't offer online streaming.
I know, because I'm not with Bell. I'm with Fido, who's owned by Rogers. So TSN customers, only Bell customers get to see TSN games streamed online, which is just ridiculous. I hate that so much. As a Canucks fan now, I won't be able to see my hockey games streamed online. I was hoping that CBC would pick it up just so I could use my app to watch Canucks games if I'm working or whatever. But that's not happening because TSN got the Canucks series. However, I do prefer TSN's coverage. So at the same time, I guess it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Being from the West Coast, I do find CBC caters predominantly to the East Coast audience, which is fair enough. That is the bulk of their audience. I do find TSN to be a little more broad in terms of what they do. So yeah, that's the basic short end of the news I wanted to discuss. all the stuff I wanted to get out of the way so we can get into the real meat of the topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Playoff predictions.
So do you want to start in the East or the West?
Yeah, let's go for East.
Okay, so first up we have the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the New York Islanders. And this one, obviously, everyone's going to be handing right to the Pens right away. And what you can't count out is A, Crosby is probably not going to be back for the first 1 to 3 games. Yep. And 2, John Tavares is a catalyst for that team.
Oh,
and he could easily get them 1, 2, 3, and now you're getting into the dangerous zone of wins. And
right.
So they can't be overlooked.
No, and although I picked the Pens in 5, if it was to go to 6 or 7, the only part of me that wouldn't be surprised is if Pittsburgh took the Islanders lightly.
Yeah.
Because I think they've proven this year that you can't do that. They have a very balanced roster. They have good defense. They have great goaltending in Nabokov. They're not a bad team. They're not a team that just squeaked in by accident. They deserve to be here. And if the Pittsburgh Penguins don't take them seriously, especially Tavares, they're going to pay a heavy price. The Pens are just too deep to lose the series.
Agreed.
I just don't see it. I really would be very surprised. Even if Crosby did miss the first 3 games, I still realistically think it will only go to 5, just based on the depth that they have. The matchup's almost not fair, how deep they are.
Yeah.
And that would go against really any team that they play, except for maybe Chicago. So I'm not super surprised that most people would pick Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh will win in 5, regardless of Crosby's status. But I agree with you in the fact that Tavares has proven that he could take over a game on his own, and he's got skill that rivals even Crosby's. So I don't think you can take them lightly. If the Pens do, it might be a long series. I don't think they will take them lightly. They're really well coached, and they're really mature bunch. I think it'll be Pittsburgh in 5.
Yeah, I agree. The Pittsburgh Penguins are just way too talented of a team.
Their wild card to me is really only goaltending.
Yeah, and even then, it's enough to stand up. I mean, with the depth of the team, even if they let in 5 goals, they have the talent to rally around
or even
a 6-goal or a 7-goal night.
Even if Fleury chokes, you got Vaucoon, who's phenomenal. Yeah. Fleury's like a Luongo for me. I just don't know what he's going to do in the playoffs. Yeah. So,
but I mean, you could say the same for Nabokov.
That's true,
right?
That's true.
So you don't really know what he's going to do. He's had sort of. I would take him over Fleury as a goaltender personally
this year, especially.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, you got to look at they're in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators. So Montreal ended up getting the division title the other day because Ottawa ended up beating the Bruins in that makeup game that they had.
Yeah.
So with that, you're going to be looking really for Subban versus Karlsson as a matchup. I'm calling the Montreal Canadiens in 6 games, just because I feel that the depth is there. I feel that Montreal was way stronger during the season series with and without Anderson, Karlsson, because we did play a game with them and win it before those injuries occurred. Also, I would say just the overall stats this season. Yes, Carey Price had a bunch of bad games late in the season, and yes, Anderson's stats are phenomenal in the top of the league, but he wasn't there for long enough, and as a result, the team's statistics, Montreal's got way more goals for, way less goals against, and then finally, playoff experience. I mean, Subban was called up for his first year in the playoffs and ended up going all the way to the 3rd round, so like with already that experience on such a young player's shoulders, that matchup is going to really show on the young guys like Karlsson, who may be extremely talented and will probably thrive in the playoffs, as opposed to like Zibanejad and Silverberg, who I think might be surprised with the level of physicality.
Yep.
The only reason I give the upper hand to Montreal's rookies is because Galchenyuk is on the 3rd line and might go unnoticed with not going up against the top defenders. Mm-hmm. And Gallagher does go up against the top defenders and prevails and has proved that this season. Yeah. So as long as he keeps up that level of energy, I can't see Ottawa overcoming the Habs roster.
And let's be fair as well, you have to pick your Habs.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I mean, like, honestly, if we were talking about Montreal-Pittsburgh right now, it would be a different story, especially if Crosby was healthy.
Yeah.
I'm, like, as biased as I would be.
You're very confident.
I'm realistic, this is, again, riding on the fact that I think Carey Price is going to stand on his head. I'm not worried about his postseason. Obviously, if we see a shaky Price, this is a whole different story.
See, okay, that's where I disagree with you. I picked the Sens in 7. I agree with everything you said in the sense that the Habs are the better team on paper and in the season series, and statistically, they probably would beat Ottawa. And I know I'm only allowed to have one Bandwagon Cup team when I pick the St. Louis Blues, but if I could pick a second Bandwagon Cup team, I think it's the Sens. Something about their season, defying all odds, doing as well as they did, leads me to believe that this might be a special year for them, and I said this before. And I don't believe that the Habs will necessarily lose the series. They could very well win it. It'll probably be a 6 or 7 game series regardless of who wins. Something tells me the Sens and I'm sorry you're going to hate me for this because you want your Habs to win. I just have a feeling the Sens might go deep this year. I could see them even going to the conferences. The reason I say this is, as great as Subban is as a defenseman, Karlsson is unparalleled. He's just the best defenseman in the world by a country mile. I mean, he's like the Crosby on defense. Nobody could touch this guy. He is capable on his own against any roster, even the Pittsburgh Penguins, of taking a series. That's how good he is. He has this level of talent which the NHL hasn't seen a defenseman have since some are saying Orr. I'm not that he's as good as Orr. I'm not putting him in that category, but people are saying he is the best defenseman this league has seen in not just this decade, but decades past, putting him up against Bork and Coffey. And I think Karlsson is a huge catalyst. And the other thing I think, and you'll hate me again, I don't think Price can match Anderson in goal. I think Anderson could steal the series because of how well he's played this year. Price is the capability of
honestly, I think you're going to eat those words.
Price is the capability of stealing the series. I mean, if he turns his game up to where we know it can be turned up to, then in theory, yes, he is the better goaltender than Anderson.
I think it will, and I think he's there.
Well, based on how Price has played this year and based on how Anderson has played this year, granted, I could be totally wrong about
Anderson's
this.
only played about 23 games. Keep
yes,
that in mind.
He was injured for a lot of it. That's true. I just have a feeling that Anderson is going to stand on his head. Now, Price might as well, and if that comes down to it, then it would very much be a goaltender's battle. They both very well may put on Vezina winning performances. But based on how both played this year, I just give the edge to Anderson as right now. I just don't know if Price has found that level. But at the same time, you watch your Habs a lot closer than I do, and you seem to think that he has.
And the East in general.
If that's the case, if Price has indeed found that next gear, then I could be completely off base with this. But based on what I've seen and based on how I've seen Anderson play, I do give Ottawa the goaltending edge, just slightly. The other thing I give them, although I do agree that the Habs are the more experienced team, I think Therrien could get out-coached by McLean. I think McLean is the best coach in the NHL right now, and I think he's going to be a huge, huge factor himself into how the game is played. What a lot of people forget, especially not people that watch hockey but not as closely as maybe you or I, is just as important on the ice as the battle off the ice. Many Stanley Cup teams are won by coaching just as much as they are won by goaltending. Or
Scotty Bowman can attest to this.
Yeah, I mean, the coach is, a lot of people don't understand this, but the coach is such an integral part to a matchup. In a 7-game series, there are so many changes that take place, so many strategies that have to be adjusted on the fly, that a series can be won by one coach outperforming the other. And I think McLean has that Bowman-esque quality to him where he can read the situation in a heartbeat, and that is a huge advantage for Ottawa. Not that I think Therrien's a bad coach. I think what he's done with the Habs this year, considering they were last place last year to where they are now, is spectacular. And I will probably say he will be a Jack Adams finalist along with McLean. So I'm not at all saying Therrien's a bad coach. He's a terrific coach. I just think I give the edge to Ottawa slightly with the goaltending, slightly with the defense, and slightly with the coaching. And because of that, I picked them in 7.
So yeah, the only thing I would argue with is defense. Is like, yeah, they got Karlsson, but after that it kind of fades out, where Montreal's defense is quite deep, even without Yemelin. I mean, we got Diaz back, and he's been huge. And you know who else has been massive is Tenorti. Yeah. Tenorti came out in the last 2 games that he was called up. He's a 6'4" massive defenseman, and he was taking guys out, making great hits, drawing penalties.
I will see your Tenorti and raise you with Jared Cowan. I think Cowan has had a much better year than Tenorti, and Cowan I would put as the better defenseman right now. I think he's become more.
Oh, than Tenorti, yeah. Tenorti's played 5 NHL games.
That's what I'm saying.
Talking about guys stepping up. And being on the 6th pairing. I mean, like, if you want to compare Cowan, who's what, on the 1st pairing?
He's top 4.
He's top 4. Well, then we got Georges and Markov to still talk about as well. well.
Yeah.
So that argument, I'm talking about full-on defensive depth. Montreal still got them beat.
Don't get me wrong. I think Montreal is deeper offensively and defensively. I just give the edge based on their star players to Ottawa. I just have a feeling that those guys will carry it. And remember, Karlsson plays more minutes than any player on either team.
Yeah.
And he's on the
ice.
ice.
But that can take a toll, even if your leg is bionic.
It could. And Karlsson has looked like a robot so far, but you're right. That is a question mark. Can Karlsson's health hold up based on how quickly he's come back?
McLean can't take advantage of that. And in the long run even. I mean, let's say you do beat the Habs in 6 or 7 and Karlsson is averaging 26 minutes a game. You can't do that for 4 rounds.
No, that's correct. And Karlsson is a wild card there. Can the health hold up? It looks right now like he's 100%.
So ideally,
110%.
Ideally, in that department, McLean would be holding back on Karlsson, which would give Montreal a little bit more.
So yeah, I mean, I give
it's going to be an excellent series.
Oh, it'll be a phenomenal series, and I see Montreal's depth, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if the Habs won the series. I'm just going with my gut here and thinking that Ottawa might do it.
Yeah,
but I might be very wrong.
All right, so next up, the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers. This is also going to be an excellent series.
Yes.
Andy, I'm going to take the Rangers in 6, and I know you disagree with me on this one, but today EA Sports did their simulation, and the Rangers won the Cup.
That doesn't mean
which is
anything.
a little crazy. However, I did call it at the beginning of the year, so my bandwagoner team does have that little nugget of hope.
And I will say this, the Rangers, to me, might be this year's LA Kings, barely squeaking into the playoffs. Teams take them lightly, and you shouldn't, because the Rangers have an amazing roster, and they should not be taken lightly if you're going to lose the series.
And the Caps should know not to take anybody lightly, because they're in a little bit of an outrageous position as it is.
Yeah, if you take the Rangers lightly, no matter who you are, you very well may lose the series.
The Caps need to really appreciate the fact that they have home ice advantage in this series, and do not go back to New York without 2 wins.
I disagreed with you. I picked the Caps in 7. The reason I say this is solely based on Ovechkin. I mean, if he wasn't playing the way he is right now, I would give the series to the Rangers, but I think he's capable of taking the series. As great as Lundqvist is in net, I think Ovechkin is.
Let's remember what happened to Ovechkin versus Yaroslav Halak.
This is true. And not to say that it won't happen again. Lundqvist might shut the door and Ovechkin might get frustrated. And if you take Ovechkin out of the equation, it's the Rangers series in a heartbeat.
Oh, it's over.
But I just think, based on how he's played, Ovechkin will really step up his game. And I think overall, I would say Washington will win the series in 7 games.
I agree with you in that Ovechkin's going to be a major factor. The one argument I'd like to make about Ovechkin having a matchup is Rick Nash is on that top line. Rick Nash is just as physical as Alexander Ovechkin. And Rick Nash has not yet been in a playoff series, and he's going to be hungry as hell.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he responds.
If he steps up his game to the level that we know Rick Nash is athletically capable of, he can match Ovechkin stride for stride, shot for shot, deke for deke.
And Brad Richards has had a great second half of the year as well.
And that's as well what I was going to say, is you have to look at the experience of John Tortorella and Brad Richards, not only each having won a Stanley Cup, but also doing so together in Tampa Bay.
Adam Oates being the rookie coach, that it took the Capitals a long time to get behind that system. So you definitely give the coaching edge to Tortorella.
However, the system is working, and you can't take for granted a system that's new to a team because they get energetic about it. The same reason Therrien's new system is working so well in Montreal is the team
I'm so close to picking
likes
the Rangers.
to take on those roles. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I'm so close to picking the Rangers, just like I was so close to picking the Sens, that honestly, the Habs, I should say, that honestly, I give the Caps the advantage by like 10%. Just like I give.
Well,
I would say
when you say a series in 7, I think that's kind of saying that, because it's coming. You're talking about it coming down a goal or 2.
It will go down to the wire,
right?
Just like the Habs Sens series, I think it'll go down to the wire. And based on Ovechkin, I think the Caps will take the series. I don't know if they can get much farther than the first round. I wouldn't at all be surprised if the Rangers won the series, but I'm going to go with my instinct and pick the Caps in 7.
Okay, so we've disagreed on 2 so far, so that'll be good for going into the second round. A little competition there. Next up, the most physical series that we're going to see in the playoffs is going to be the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
In my opinion, if anybody if anybody has a choice to watch just one first round series in the playoffs, watch this one. Yeah. I think this is going to be like the Philly-Pittsburgh series of last year. It'll be the best series of the entire playoffs, potentially. Like, the Bruins and the Leafs hate each other. They have a massive history, just as massive as the Habs and the Bruins. Yeah. I mean, they go back almost 100 years. So, I mean, these teams hate each other, and they're the 2 most physical teams in the league. Regardless of which team wins the series, they're going to be, whoever wins the series will have like 2 guys left.
And so when I talked earlier about like me predicting the Habs winning series because I'm biased towards them and stuff, it's funny because if you would put me up against the Boston Bruins right now, I'd say Boston has the upper hand.
Yeah.
But most teams who go to the second round and have to face the Bruins or the Leafs after they come out of that series against each other, they're just going to have an upper hand because you're going to be so worn out.
Yeah.
There's going to be 30 hits a night.
Yeah.
There's going to be 4 fights a night.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a devastating series, and they're not going to know what hit them come the second round.
I pick the Bruins in 7. Once again, a very, very, very close pick. I was so close to picking Toronto. Toronto has some great offensive talent. They got great D. I think Toronto's. I said this from the beginning of the season. Toronto's question mark is their goaltending. I don't have faith that Reimer's as good as people think he is. I think he will do okay. I think he'll do well. I just don't think he's quite there yet. I think their weakness is their goaltending, and Rask has put on a Vezina-nominated performance this year. Like he probably will get a Vezina nomination. They got one of the top 3 defensemen in the game in Chara, and offensively, although Toronto's top 6 arguably is better, Boston's overall depth offensively is way better.
And I would say that
Boston's bottom 6 decimates Toronto's bottom 6.
Yeah,
in terms of scoring ability.
Agreed, and even the top 6. I mean, when you take into factor like Tyler Seguin, who's had a bit of a slow year and is going to be having a phenomenal playoffs like he did last season. Brad Marchand, Milan Lucic, Horton. These guys get pumped up for the postseason, and they're going to want another run again. So that's why I agree with you. I'm going to give the Bruins the upper hand. I would say probably won't go to 7. I'd say they'll take them in 6.
Yeah,
might be 7 based on how physical it's going to be.
I was just thinking 7 also because this is the Leafs' first time in the playoffs in 9 years. They are going to be so pumped up. The entire city will be jacked. I think Toronto, because of that, is going to have a massive advantage at home ice. I think their home ice crowds are going to be insane.
Well, good thing the Bruins have the home ice advantage then.
Yeah.
And that crowd's going to be pumped too because of the adversity they faced in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
But that's why I could see
like
going to 7 because I could see Toronto winning all of their home games.
Yeah, but I mean, like the 3 or 4 home games we've seen since the Boston bombing, that building has been just as loud as a Winnipeg building or a Montreal or a Toronto building.
Yeah.
So that you have to add the home ice.
It's crazy that such a terrible event could give such an advantage to a team.
And that's why you want to see them succeed too. And I mean, I know it's just a sport, and compared to the tragedy, it's not real. It's
as a Canuck fan, I think the Bruins should go to hell.
And as a Habs fan, I agree with that sentiment.
I would be totally fine with the Bruins
but you know
losing in the first round of the Maple Leafs. As much as I hate the Leafs because it's programmed into me, I hate the Bruins even more. So believe me, as much as I'm picking the Bruins in 7, if the Leafs take them, fine by me.
I'd say I hate both teams equally, so it's easy for me to pick the Bruins.
And another reason I'd like to see,
adversity.
even though I'm picking Boston, another reason I would be happy if the Leafs won is because I would love to see the Leafs play the Habs. I think, assuming the Habs win, of course. So if
that won't be the matchup, though. Well, it could be if the Caps. Actually, no. Montreal can't face Toronto
until the conferences. Technically,
yeah, it'd be the conferences, and if that happens, that means the Pens have to go down to the Leafs.
Yeah, that's
is what you're predicting, or the Rangers, one of the two.
I would say the Pens would more likely go down to the Rangers than the Leafs.
But that's predicted. We gotta wait till we see what the second round is.
Too far ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go. We'll recap it here. So we got the Pens in 4 or 5 for me, and in 5 for Andy.
Yep.
We got the Habs and Sens. So I'm taking the Habs in 6. You're taking the Sens in 7.
Yep.
The Caps and Rangers. I'm taking the Rangers in 6. You're taking the Caps in 7.
Yep.
And the Bruins. I'll say Bruins in 6. You're saying Bruins in 7.
Yeah.
So that's the East.
I think the Bruins will take the Leafs based on their experience.
Yeah. So that'll be it.
Western Conference. Yeah, a little more predictable. I think we're not as argumentative in this conference.
Exactly.
The Hawks versus the Wild. In my opinion, the Columbus Blue Jackets, based on how they played at the end of the year, it was heartbreaking to see them not make it. We should mention this off the top because in the middle of our last show, we were talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets being the 8th seed, and literally during the show being recorded,
Detroit won
their game, and having the game in hand, they got the point ahead of them, so Detroit got the 8th spot. I found it heartbreaking that the Columbus Blue Jackets didn't make it, because I thought they had such a great year. Bobrovsky, if he doesn't win the Vezina, it'll be a travesty. He'll probably even get an MVP nomination. He took that team into a playoff series, playoff contention, and it sucks because the Columbus Blue Jackets won their last game, which they were supposed to do, but unfortunately both the Rangers and Mini also won their last game, so they were kind of stuck at that point because both teams had the game in hand. So in my opinion, the Wild, considering how poor they did in the middle of the season, at the beginning of the year, the Wild are lucky to be in the playoffs. Like, if it wasn't for their good second half, they wouldn't be here.
And they're not going to be here long, and that's the thing.
I think the Wild, I would say the Blackhawks will sweep them.
The Blackhawks will sweep them, I agree. My only note here is bam.
The Wild,
it's over.
The Wild won't see what's coming.
Yeah, it's and the other thing is, like, these Stanley Cup final teams, these Stanley Cup champion teams, pretty much every time they sweep a series, and this one, I mean, yes, there's upsets, and yes, there's Cinderella teams, but it's not the Minnesota Wild. Wild?
No, if the Wild even gets a win off in this series, I would be incredibly surprised.
I would be impressed, yeah.
But I think the Blackhawks are just going to demolish them.
Yeah, and they'll have fun doing it too. It's gonna be like a practice series.
Yeah,
like, they're gonna skate around and have some fun.
I think they should just see if they could sneak Chelsea Dagger into the Minnesota arenas just so it could play during their away games. I think that'd be funny as hell. Or maybe vice versa, the Wild should play Chelsea Dagger if they score against Boston or against Chicago.
I would actually, now that I'm thinking about it, look for it to be a shooting gallery because I mean, like we're looking at scoring getting a lot. There's a lot more goals even in the postseason games as well. So you could look for like Kane and Taves to start scoring.
I guess we should never really count out Parise and Suter. Like they will have an impact on the series.
The team's just not deep enough.
No, that's all they got.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
Really,
yeah, I mean, like you could even count in like guys like Mikko Koivu.
Yeah, I still say the one question mark with Chicago, much like with Pittsburgh, is goaltending. Like I know they
got two though. That's
I know you love Crawford, but I'm still not.
But even without Crawford, they got Emery.
Yeah, and he's had a great year. I'm just not sold on either of them as like I don't think either Crawford or Emery could steal a series, but I think they could be pieces in the puzzle to help them win. But I don't think it's going to be a goaltending that wins Chicago any of their series.
No, but look at Antti Niemi winning them the Stanley Cup as well. I mean, Crawford, I would say, is better than Niemi hands down, even in Niemi's run.
Niemi didn't even do that well that year, though.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Well, but exactly, that's why it does. Like the Hawks aren't going to care about.
Oh no, I know.
As long as they can prevent 4 goals a night,
I'm not saying Chicago's goaltending is going to cost them anything.
Okay,
I'm just saying don't count on it to be a win.
No, he's not going to steal them a series. No, but they don't need that.
No, not at all.
No.
So yeah, we both say Hawks in 4, and then you got the Anaheim Ducks versus the Detroit Red Wings.
This is a tough one to pick.
Yeah, the Red Wings almost missing the playoff. Would have been the first time in 20 years, 22 years, 22 years, and they just barely squeak in. I picked the Ducks in 6 just based on their depth and based on their phenomenal goaltending. The defensively, both teams are pretty even, and I think the Wings could potentially win the series. But I just think, and I know we make the same argument every year, but I think this is the year where the Wings are just a bit too old. They don't have Lidstrom anymore. Their age was a massive factor in them to just barely making the playoffs. I mean, when was the last time the Wings were in 8th?
Yeah.
I can't even remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever happened.
They're in 7th.
7th, sorry. Well, a low seed.
Yeah.
They really struggled this year. They're never a low seed ever. And I'd just be very, very surprised if they could beat Anaheim, who's just got a much younger team and a
much offensive talent.
Much faster team, much more physical team. The Wings could probably take a couple games, so I'm saying the Ducks in 6.
I'm saying the Ducks in 7. I think the Wings will even push it that far.
They could, too. I wouldn't be surprised.
It'll be because players of like Datsuk, and I think it'll be him pulling off, that overtime goal that got them that one extra game, and that'll be about it. But
there's some rumors
it could
about,
be 6, it could be 7, but it's going to be the Ducks.
There's some rumors about Datsuk possibly going back to Russia next year. Could be his last year.
Well, fair enough. I mean, like
he's 34 now.
He could dominate in that league, so that
that'd
realistically,
be so sad.
Think about what you'd want to. Yeah,
I don't want Datsuk to go. He's a human highlight reel.
Yeah, but I mean, he won't be in the NHL for many years. Even next year, you give him 82 games, we'll see maybe 3 or 4 highlight real goals.
Yeah, he's getting older.
But in the Russian leagues, he could have highlight reel goals every period.
They'll build a statue.
And for him, come on, think about it. Like as being him, like 40, 41, like you just want to go have fun and play hockey.
But he's still got probably 4 or 5 good years left.
I don't want to go up against Weber and take hits because I'm on the top line every night. Like, I want to go up against Russian kids and show them what it's like to play hockey.
If Detroit lost Datsuk, what did they do?
Well, they need to rebuild anyways. So I mean, like they got a plan. What, they're going to hold on to him for the next 5 years? That's not happening. He'll be retired for sure within the next 2 or 3.
I could see Datsuk having like a Solani style career where he plays into old age and playing successfully.
Maybe, but based on the fact that he already is tempted to go to Russia, I kind of think that he feels he wants to dominate.
It'd be too bad. He's one of my favorite players. Such a classy guy.
I agree.
Not at all.
And you could also see a return.
I
mean, think about Yager. Yeah. Right? Like same kind of boat.
Datsuk is not at all the prototypical Russian, which is why I think he's stayed here for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I say Ducks in 6. You say Ducks in 7. So yeah, and then we move on. San Jose Sharks versus the Vancouver Canucks.
So I'll get my notes out of the way here quick because they're your Canucks, so you'll take a lot of notes on them. So I'm just thinking the only way the Canucks are going to lose any games against the Sharks is if they take them for granted. It's really on paper and looking at the matchups all year long, Vancouver's series to lose. So I give the Sharks a couple wins based on Vancouver being timid and based on the fact that Schneider might miss a couple games. But that's it. The series should belong
realistically,
to the
the
Canucks.
Schneider thing, I think, is blown out of proportion. I'd be very surprised if Schneider even missed one game. It sounds like they're kind of being a bit secretive about it and sort of I don't. My gut tells me it's not as serious as they claim it to be. I believe Schneider will probably start game 1. Maybe have to wait until game 2. I don't think he'll miss more than a game though, if that. I am worried about the Sharks because we got dominated by them this year. We went 0-2-1 against them. The Sharks were killing us this year, but at the same time, we didn't really have a very good year. I mean, we managed third just because of our weak division. But I think the Vancouver Canucks this year are not the Vancouver Canucks of the last 4 years. They're no longer this speedy powerhouse goal-scoring machine. They play a much better two-way style, much better defensive game. And I think this year, if the Canucks take the Sharks lightly, the Sharks will win the series. Now, I'm still picking the Canucks in 6. I still think the Canucks will win the series. I don't think we will take the Sharks lightly because we took the Kings lightly last year, and look how that ended up. So I don't think we will take the Sharks lightly, and the Sharks still have a very good team. Their top 6 is arguably better than ours. Defensively, although we are a bit deeper, they have some great defense in Boyle. And goaltending, I would give us the edge. But at the same time, Niemi is a good goalie. So, I mean, I think we will win against the Sharks. I don't think we will take them lightly. And the thing I like this year, although I am more nervous about the Canucks going into the playoffs this year than I have been in past years based on the season that they had.
Oh, yeah.
I think the underdog status that they got this year will help them. I don't think the pressure isn't on them to succeed and win a cup this year like it was the last 3 years. Although they are expected to go deep by the franchise. And I would... Based on the roster that they have, I would hope that they can get to the conference finals. But at the same time, this isn't the team that was the last few years, so I don't think it'll be an easy road, but I still think that we got the best possible matchup. I was praying we would get San Jose. I did not want to play LA or St. Louis.
Yeah.
I was not looking forward to playing LA or St. Louis, although I think we could beat either teams. They would beat us up if we beat them. So we would come out of that series bruised and battered, and injuries is the one thing we've really struggled with this year. So I did not want an injured Vancouver Canucks team going into the second round. So I'm glad we picked the Sharks because they play more our style. I think it'll be a very exciting series. If we take them lightly, we're toast, but I don't think we will. And based on Schneider's performance in the last month, this is the first time going into a playoff, run in 5 or 6 years. Probably since the first year when we had Luongo in 2006, 2007. This is the first time the Canucks have gone into the playoffs with an incredibly hot goalie. I've always been nervous about our goaltending in the past several years, even when we were the best team in the league. This year I'm not nervous. Schneider is capable of stealing a series. He's that good. He's proven that he is now a star in this league. This was his coming out year. Most people expected it would have been, but it was. And I think Schneider can very well take the series on his own, assuming he's healthy, which I think he will be. So that I'm excited for. We finally got some amazing goaltending, and worst case scenario, you still got Luongo as a backup. So the one silver lining to not trading him, which I was really disappointed with when we didn't trade him this year at the deadline, the one silver lining is, worst case scenario, you got Luongo back there as well, who's a terrific goalie.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I say Canucks in 6. I think it'll be a great series.
And the last series, we got the St. Louis Blues taking on the Los Angeles Kings. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Kings in 7, and I think if you're going to skip one series, it should be this one.
Oh, this will be a bore.
It'll put you to sleep. I mean, there is the off chance that you could see the Kings try to open up the Blues and try to get them to play a fast game, but the Blues are just going to button it down defensively.
Oh yeah,
shut everything down. He's not going to want to bite, and even if the Kings can get their speed going, Richards, Carter,
it will be physical.
Kopitar, it's going to be
kind of like
look at the matchup for Doughty versus Pietrangelo.
Yeah.
That's going to be wicked.
It's kind of going to be like the Boston-Toronto of the West Coast, like physicality-wise.
There's no skill involved as far as the scoring is concerned. That's the only difference.
Kings definitely have the much more skilled offensive roster. Defensively, they're about the same, both teams. Goaltending, I'd probably give the edge to LA, although Quick has had a subpar year. So, I mean, in theory...
I'd look for his playoffs to be a lot better than his season.
Yeah, I would hope. Oh, I would hope. I would say the same about Price, right? I mean, it's kind of the same, sort of a similar scenario.
Well, yeah, but the difference is his Price's stats are way above Quick.
Oh, of course. He's had a much better year.
Yeah,
but I would hope Quick would elevate his game, and if he does, then it's over. But the goaltending matchup I put around the same. I just put LA offensively are better. But I actually scratched LA out in 7, and the reason I did this, although I do agree in theory that the LA Kings will probably take it in 7, I'm picking the St. Louis Blues because I just remembered at the last minute. They were my bandwagon pick for the Cup. So I gotta pick
Well,
them.
you should say that, but like if New York comes up against Pittsburgh, I'm not going to pick the Rangers. I'm not an idiot.
No, I wouldn't if that was the scenario.
Like if it was St. Louis or Chicago right now.
I think I do think when I said the Kings in 7 originally, I said like barely. Like I think it's a very
agreed, and that's why I'm picking the Rangers.
It's a very very even matchup. Like I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Kings won. I just got to pick the Blues because they were my bandwagon pick, so I'm going to stick with the team that I picked. And the Blues as well, if taken lightly. If the Kings take the Blues lightly, the Blues will kill them.
Oh, yeah, no
So,
question.
I mean, if the Kings go in being like, it's the same Blues, we'll walk over them. No, you'll get destroyed by them.
Yeah.
They have offensive skill. They got defensive skill. Yeah. They got 2 great goalies. And they got Allen as well, who's like just sort of come out of nowhere and taken like the world by storm. So I think the Blues could definitely win in 7, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings won. But screw it, my bandwagon pick, I'm picking the Blues in 7.
Good. We need a little more competition in the picks too, so that helps.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'll take the Kings
exactly.
Take the Blues. There
exactly.
we go.
All right, so that's it, folks. We are super stoked for the playoffs. It's going to be a great first round. The first round of the playoffs almost every year is the best round, and I don't expect it to be any different this year. I think this will be probably the best hockey you're going to see in the playoffs, unless it's a Chicago-Pittsburgh final, in which case buckle in tight, because that's going to be one hell of a series if that happens. But yeah, I think this is going to be a great first round. This will be the last time we do this, so I just want to give a big shout out to the radio station that had hosted our show since it started back in January. Look for us now on Spreaker, Spreaker.com/user/the Bandwagoners, or just go to Facebook.com/the Bandwagoners and subscribe to us there. So, my name is Andy Cole.
And my name is Justin Boniface. Thanks for following us, guys.
Have a good night.